In a dramatic escalation of global trade tensions, President Donald Trump has ignited a trade war with America's three largest trading partners, China, Canada, and Mexico. This bold move has sent shockwaves through international markets and left businesses grappling with uncertainty. But what does this mean for everyday Americans? How will these tariffs impact the products we rely on daily? Stay tuned as we unravel the complexities of this unfolding economic battle. Just after midnight, President Trump imposed a series of tariffs, a 25% tax on Mexican and Canadian imports, with a 10% levy specifically on Canadian energy products. Additionally, tariffs on Chinese goods were doubled from 10% to 20%. These measures mark a significant departure from the free trade policies the United States has championed since World War II. But what prompted such a drastic shift? Trump argues that open trade has cost America millions of manufacturing jobs and that tariffs are the path to national prosperity. He dismisses the views of mainstream economists who contend that such protectionism is costly and inefficient. Import taxes are a very powerful weapon that politicians haven't used because they were either dishonest, stupid, or paid off in some other form, Trump stated. And now we are using them. The response from affected nations was swift and pointed. Beijing retaliated with tariffs of up to 15% on a wide array of U.S. agricultural products, including chicken, pork, soy, and beef. They also expanded the number of U.S. companies subject to export controls and other restrictions by about 24. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that Canada would impose tariffs on over $100 billion worth of American goods over the next 21 days. In a scathing statement, Trudeau remarked, "Today the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they are talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense." Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum declared that Mexico would respond with its own retaliatory tariffs, with details to be announced imminently. The delay might indicate that Mexico still hopes to de-escalate the situation. The US-China trade relationship is one of the most significant globally, and the imposition of tariffs has targeted several key sectors. Agricultural products. China has imposed tariffs of up to 15% on US agricultural exports, including chicken, pork, soybeans, beef, wheat, corn, and cotton. This move affects approximately $21 billion in US exports. American farmers, already facing increasing costs and declining crop prices over the past 3 years, fear further economic pain. During the 2018 trade war with China, American farmers saw significant declines in exports, which were partially offset by government payments. Experts suggest that finding new markets is crucial for boosting the agriculture industry, rather than relying on domestic sales alone. Technology and electronics. The increased US tariffs on Chinese goods encompass a broad range of electronics, including smartphones, laptops, and other consumer electronics. This escalation is expected to lead to higher prices for these products in the US market. Automobiles. The automotive industry is significantly impacted, with tariffs affecting both imported vehicles and auto parts. This disruption is likely to result in increased production costs and, consequently, higher prices for consumers. The US-Canada trade relationship has also been strained, with tariffs affecting various sectors. Energy products. The US has imposed a 10% tariff on Canadian energy imports, including crude oil and natural gas. This measure is expected to lead to increased energy costs in the United States. Agricultural products. Canada has announced tariffs on a wide range of US agricultural goods, including orange juice, peanut butter, wine, spirits, beer, coffee, and certain dairy products. These measures are anticipated to affect US farmers and could lead to higher prices for Canadian consumers. Manufactured goods. US tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum imports are expected to increase production costs for American manufacturers, particularly in the automotive and construction industries. This could result in higher prices for consumers and potential job losses in these sectors. The escalation of trade tensions has led to significant volatility in global financial markets. Stocks have experienced substantial losses, with the S&P 500 erasing all gains since election day. European markets have also been affected, reflecting the interconnected nature of the global economy. Economists warn that the tariffs could lead to rekindled inflation and paralyzing uncertainty for businesses. Dartmouth College economist Douglas Irwin notes that the recent tariff hikes will lift America's average tariff from 2.4% to 10.5%, the highest level since the 1940s. "We are in a new era for sure," Irwin remarked. The tariffs have elicited varied reactions within the United States. Political leaders, Democratic lawmakers have criticized the tariffs, arguing that presidents don't get to invent emergencies to justify bad policies. Representative Gregory Meeks, the top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, stated, "Abusing emergency powers to wage an economic war on our closest allies isn't leadership, it's dangerous." Some Republican senators have also raised concerns, particularly those from states that heavily rely on trade with Canada and Mexico. Business owners, U.S. businesses near the Canadian and Mexican borders are scrambling to deal with the impact. For instance, Guthrie Lumber in suburban Detroit is facing increased prices for lumber imported from Canada, which constitutes about 15% of their inventory. Sales manager Mike Mahoney noted that Canadian suppliers are already raising prices, stating, "They are putting that 25% on studs." Builders will strain to stay within their budgets. Consumers, the tariffs are expected to lead to higher prices for a range of consumer goods, from electronics to groceries. Rachel Lutz, who owns 4 women's boutique shops in Detroit, expressed her concerns. "I'm struggling to see the wisdom in picking a fight with our largest trading partner that we've had historically wonderful relationships with. I'm struggling to really understand how they can't see that will profoundly impact our economy in ways that I think the American consumer has not predicted. We are about to find out." Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick indicated that the U.S. might seek a compromise with Canada and Mexico, with an announcement potentially coming soon. Lutnick mentioned that while the tariffs would not be paused, President Trump might reach a middle ground. "I think he's going to figure out, you do more, and I'll meet you in the middle in some way," Lutnick said. However, the path to resolution remains uncertain. The president's approach has injected volatility into the world economy, leaving it off balance, as stakeholders wonder what he will do next. During his first term, Trump imposed tariffs only after lengthy investigations into the national security implications of relying on foreign steel, for example. But by declaring a national emergency last month involving the flow of immigrants and illicit drugs across U.S. borders, he can modify these tariffs with a stroke of the pen, noted Michael House, co-chair of the international trade practice at the Perkins Coie law firm. "It's chaotic. And in the end it's been concluded that the escalating trade war between the United States and its largest trading partners, China, Canada, and Mexico, has created economic uncertainty, market volatility, and strained international relations." While President Trump argues that tariffs will restore American manufacturing and reduce trade deficits, the immediate impact has been retaliatory measures, rising costs for businesses, and potential job losses. Key industries, from agriculture and energy to electronics and automobiles, are already feeling the pressure. With negotiations still uncertain, the long-term consequences of these tariffs remain unclear. Will these aggressive trade policies force better trade deals for the U.S., or will they backfire, leading to higher prices for consumers and economic instability? As global markets react and affected nations respond, one thing is certain: the world is watching closely to see what happens next in this high-stakes trade war.